good leadership, empathy, the good attributes, did this stem from your childhood? Was it something that was taught to you, or you picked it up?
I think it's probably a combination of factors.
Sure.
So yes, I think childhood plays a part. What do you see at home? Because it's something that you learn, right? It's not something that you're born with, right?
Yeah, you pick it up along the way.
You pick it up, and so you look at your parents, how do they treat each other, how they treat you, and I grew up in a very supportive and nurturing and loving house. And and then you move on, right? And then school, teachers here and there. You pick and choose the kind of role models that appeal to the kind of person you want to be. And I also think over time, it gets easier because why? You have less to prove. If you have nothing to prove, you can relax. You can let people do their own thing, right?
So it comes down to really giving your best and being authentic, and not constantly wanting this expectation of, oh, I am better, or this and that.
Because you don't need to do that anymore, right? You've reached a certain age, you have a certain achievement or story to your name, and you don't have to say, oh, me, right? I mean, some people never grow out of it for some reason, but actually after a certain, you don't need that anymore. Nobody needs that. And actually you come across more relatable, and in a way you get more positive feedback from people because you give them space, right?
Because it's more of a journey rather than like a destination. Like once you've reached here, you have been through all these milestones, then I am better, or something of a higher elevation. Maybe can you share a little bit more about your family? What was it like growing up? You were raised in Germany, I believe.
Yeah.
What was it like there? What is the huge difference you felt in the children being raised in Germany and in the Asian countries, or how was your family like, your parents?
Okay, I think happy to discuss this, but when we look at this, it's probably twofold. One is more kind of stereotypical. How is Germany for most people different from Asia, right?
Sure.
And as far as that part is concerned, obviously you have a bit less hierarchy, and you feel a bit more empowered to, I don't know, talk back to your parents or your teachers or your university professors. We had no respect for our university professors at the time. And
you just walk out of the class?
Yeah, or you just call them names or whatever. And now I'm getting so much respect from the Singapore students that I'm thinking,
surreal.
wow, this is really, really different from the way it was, right? So overall, it's a little bit more of a kind of open and liberal society, and that reflects on most people, not everybody, but most people's upbringing. But I think the second part is, and probably more importantly, is the kind of family that you grow up in, right? Because you can still have a very strict hierarchical family, even in Germany, where you would think, oh, this is a kind of an Asian value, right? But you get that. It wasn't the case in my family. I come from a very kind of blue collar background. The area where we lived is a coal mining area. So both of my grandparents were in the coal mines, and both my granddads. And then obviously they weren't working anymore when I was born or when I grew up. And so my dad kind of self-made and did a bit of study here and there, but I was the first one who was able to go to university from our family. And so that was an interesting kind of experience, right? And lots of expectation as well, right? Because, they are making this possible for me, right? Even though it doesn't cost money in Germany, still you need to support the kid to live somewhere and all of that, right? And what was different, I think that our family was always very open to the world. And that's not necessarily the norm, even in Europe.
Sure.
So some grew up, and even some of my friends from back then, they're still there. They haven't left the hometown where we all grew up, and they're still there. And sometimes I meet them when I visit my mom, and we have nothing to talk about. We say hi on the street, but we share nothing. And I think the fact that I went out into the world and worked all over the place also had something to do that my parents were in this international charitable organizations, looking looking after orphans in Africa and this and that. And it was because it has an international structure. There were always people staying at our house from India, from Africa, from the States, and all of that, which at the time in the 60s and 70s wasn't
very
so
uncommon,
common, right? So I was very early on in my life. I was exposed to that, and I thought it was fun and interesting, and I wanted to learn more. And when I was 12, they put me on a plane, and I went to the UK for the summer on my own, and my English was kind of okay, but not that great at the time. But that's how you learn, right? And that's how you get to know kind of different cultures. And then I went to the US and here and there. So I think that laid the seed for me wanting to not stay in Germany, but try other places and see what life is there.
What do you think of advertising, marketing, and branding? Is there one that is more important than the other?
Okay. Actually, I wanted to ask you that strategy that you told us at the beginning with the outstretched hand and everything, has that been successful?